Okay, good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming in a bit early before House floor this morning. We have a proposed amendment on H218, the opioid abatement and settlement fund bill that was reported by Representative McGuire on the floor yesterday. And so, Katie, if you wouldn't mind putting it up on the screen and then telling us what it does and where it goes. And then we'll have the reporter. Are we okay?
Yes, just fine.
Okay.
Let's take.
There we go. Okay. Good morning. Katie McLean, Office of Legislative Counsel. This is an amendment to your committee report 218. If you remember, the first half of your bill is where you do the appropriations from the special fund, and the second half of the bill is where you have made changes to some existing language that creates the advisory committee for the special fund. And also there is language that specifies how the special fund is supposed to be utilized. So this subdivision 8 is not a section that is otherwise amended in your bill, but this section itself is amended. So this would add subdivision 8 as an amended section in your bill. And the language would read, expanding syringe service programs, specifically providing comprehensive syringe services programs with more wraparound services, including linkages to opioid use disorder treatment, access to sterile syringes, safe syringe disposal, and linkages to care and treatment of infectious diseases. And then it goes on to have a subdivision 9. So this is part of the language that when the underlying language was adopted, I think in 2021, the committee at that time had worked with the AG's office to use the language in the settlement about authorized uses, and that is what this section was. And I can pull up the section itself if you want to see it. I think we're good on that.
Okay.
So I just want to be sure that I understand what you're saying. So I understand that this section of the bill, we really just updated terms and then added the vice or a co-chair or something for the committee itself. And so my recollection, because I was on committee at that time, is that we had really very specific language that we could adopt pursuant to the settlement. And I recall the AG's office being in the room with us and making sure that we were not veering parameters. Yeah. So all of the parties to the litigation had to agree to a settlement. And the settlement had specific parameters. For example, there has to be a special fund. There has to be an advisory committee making recommendations on the special fund, but also the uses of the fund itself were specified in the settlement. And so when the committee did its work, it tried to track that fairly closely to make sure that whatever was in the settlement was represented in the statute itself. Thank you. Do people have questions about that aspect of it? Okay. Yes, go ahead, Doug.
Would it be correct to say that from that national settlement, that set a floor but not the ceiling about what could be included, or was it supposed to be narrowly read and really only be used for those purposes?
The way the committee was working on it at the time and the way that the AG's office was providing advice was to keep the legislative language as tightly tailored to what was in the settlement as possible. Does safe syringe disposal sort of conceptually fall within like activities that were authorized at the time? Yes, it's a like activity, but it wasn't specified in the settlement the way some of these other items were called out. The committee at the time, I will tell you, the committee at the time tried to expand
we had lots of ideas about what we wanted to put as allowable things in the settlement. And we're continually guided back in our thoughts about what we could put in there. So let's just hold off on this for a second. And I'm going to ask Lori, if you could take that one down. I'm going to ask Lori to put up Act 22 from 2024. Because in Act 2020, it was Bill 222 and it was Act 22. So we actually have language in law already that addresses syringe disposal program. Now, should we be checking back in with the health department to see what's happening about that? Yes, we should. And we will add that to our oversight and accountability sections for us to review this year. But we actually specifically added language about syringe disposal when we adopted H222, which became law as Act 22. So I just wanted you to have some background about what actually is already in statute about this. Okay, thank you, Katie. And let's have Representative White come up. No, it is. Thank you. Welcome to our committee.
Thank you. For the record, Representative Candace White. I live in Waitsfield and represent 5 towns in the surrounding area. I appreciate your coming in on such short notice. I apologize for that. And Madam Chair, thank you for making time. So as your council took you through, so when Bill 218 came up yesterday, and I saw, the clean syringe program. I checked in with Chair Wood at a recess to just share some concerns that some constituents of mine have brought up regarding the syringe program in Burlington. Even though I represent the Mount River Valley, these constituents who have lived there for several decades have, within the last 5 years or so, purchased a multifamily home in Burlington, fixed it up, have young professionals living there, happens to be next to the Howard Center. So they're observant of how some of these opioid programs are going. And they had expressed real concern that the current syringe program is providing clean syringes, but not handling disposal of safe disposal of syringes. And they're noticing numerous used syringes on the land of the Howard Center, also on their private land, where they have young female professionals who are nurses at UVM. And so concerned about just, used syringes laying around the neighborhood. There were other concerns with the program that I felt like it was a little bit beyond my purview to address or to ask you all to weigh in on. But I wanted to just bring that to your attention. So I worked with Ledge Council very quickly to come up with this brief amendment. And then Chair Wood shared with me the original bill from, I think it was 2023, H222, which, as she shared with you, does have language addressing safe syringe disposal. So I'm thinking that I don't think there needs to be an amendment because the language is in the original legislation. Perhaps this is more an accountability or an enforcement issue versus actually needing a legislative correction. So I don't feel like I need to push for this amendment. It's already in the language. But I would, really appreciate, and Chair Wood had said that you all are doing regular accountability check-ins. So, I think that that is really the request that I have is, I'm very supportive of the bill that was on the floor yesterday. I think it makes a lot of sense. And it's hard to weigh, trying to handle, run some of these programs and also benefit the community as a whole. So it just looks like, if there's any work that can be done to tighten up and the disposal of syringes and just that would be really appreciated and necessary.
Thank you. Go ahead, Representative McGuire.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing this, like, safe needles in those, disposal programs, usually they're, cylinders or bins that are located at locations in which people can go and dispose of their paraphernalia. Same thing with, the prescription drugs. A lot of sheriff's departments have those tubes that you can get with it. That's kind of what these programs are. It is difficult to hold, things accountable, be able to monitor when the needles are on the streets and so forth. What we do in Rutland is that through Project Vision and as well as a few other agencies, we get together on a bi-weekly basis in which a team of people head on out. We head to some of the locations where we know that unfortunately there is active use going on publicly, and we do everything that we can to clean up those areas. That would be my suggestion, in lieu to speak to the Howard Center and speak to other agencies within the community and see if they'd be willing to put together that type of program to go out there and help clean up what is out there. But it is very, very difficult to maintain, monitor, or do things literally out of our control being left in the community. But I appreciate you bringing this to the attention, and I agree that we also need to do a better job of holding agencies accountable to the programs that they're running. Are they doing them effectively? Are they producing the results that they're saying they're producing?
And the syringe disposal part is relatively new. And so I think it's important for us to go back and see what's happened with the health department. They had some resources. There was money appropriated for this to be able to actually give to communities so that they could purchase and locate
Disposal bins, yeah.
disposal
Yep,
bins
yep.
and stuff. Because people might recall that this started out as people wanted to put them at pharmacies, and that they thought like, well, this is a logical location because, and it's not a logical location. And then people talked about physicians' offices, like, well, no, not really a logical location either. And then, so we ended on, the program providing consultation to communities and providing resources so that they could locate them where would be, most likely to be used situation. So I would say, I don't know if your constituent has talked with the Howard Center. They have.
I'm not sure. I know he's certainly shared his thoughts, or they have shared their thoughts with me. I know they've put something in 7 days, had a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
I'm happy to share.
Yeah, it's just, the Howard Center is generally pretty responsive, and I would imagine, as Rep. McGuire just said, that they probably periodically go out and, clean up the area. But, I don't know that, but that would be a first place I would start, since they are right adjacent to them. Rep. Steady and then Rep. Bishop.
Wouldn't this benefit people with diabetes that have to have shots every day? Other people that want to dispose their syringes.
Yes, anybody,
I'm
the
thinking
syringe
this would
disposal.
benefit not just people with addiction, I hate to say
Yes.
it, but
Yeah.
it would benefit people that have to give their dog shots. I mean, I can see this being used by a lot of people.
Yeah, that the safe syringe is
Syringes.
any kind of needle, really. Yeah. And what we were talking about is, those bins that you see when you go to the doctor's office and they give you a shot or they draw blood and then they put the thing in a,
So where would they, I wasn't here last year, so where do people?
what this program did was to say the health department needed to work with communities to provide technical assistance, and to they had resources to allocate to communities to locate them. So the community would decide where's the best place in our community, because every community is going to be different.
I don't think there is one in my community.
Yeah, well, your community
That I
might,
know of.
yeah. So it will be helpful for us to have the health department come in, ask them, what kind of outreach did you do? How do communities know to access this program and stuff like that? So appreciate you bringing it to our attention, Representative White.
Sure, and if I would just add, if I could, I don't know if I've ever seen in Burlington any safe syringe boxes, like drop boxes, and it's something I have seen in other countries, and even in public bathrooms. So, in public parks, at the Howard Center, having those boxes around and for people to use, I think could be really helpful. And the other part is, if that clean needle program is an exchange program, then actually, requiring them to give their old needle to get a new needle, might make some type of positive impact.
There's one in the city market bathroom.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably in
The library.
Yeah, and I think as Representative McGuire said, that's the one-for-one exchange kind of thing, very difficult when you're talking about people with, the issues of addiction at this point in time. Yeah. So Representative Bishop, you had a question or comment?
A comment really more so, for 25 years until last June, I worked in downtown Burlington. So would walk around town every day. And I would include, if we have an oversight hearing in addition to the Department of Health, identifying either Rutland or Burlington or another community to also perhaps speak to what their efforts look like. I don't know if the city of Burlington's efforts are funded through this Department of Health program or not. I believe they have, you can go to a website and sort of fill out a form, kind of a click it and fix it type thing. I don't know whether that's part of that or broader city effort. But I'll just highlight it is of concern for me as well in working at the Greater Burlington YMCA located in downtown Burlington. Our preschool teachers take kids out into the community all the time and would have to at all times be vigilant as they're walking with their eyes, not only looking out for the children's safety in traffic, but for what's on the sidewalks.
Mhm.
So I value the conversation. Looks like we have a vehicle through which to talk about it. So hopefully that satisfies. It sounds like it does.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. I
Representative
appreciate your
White.
time.
And we'd be happy to invite you up when we have the health department in to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Lori, you're good. We don't need to take any action. So wait a minute, just before you go off. Representative White, is that, had you forwarded this to the clerk's office?
Haven't, and I don't think I need to.
Right, so
I'll check in with the speaker to let her know I'm not.
that you're not doing